The following is a special KIRO 7 Seafair presentation.
July 27th, Tri-Cities, Washington, the Columbia River. Gusting winds, rapid current, and perfect conditions. Perfect for disaster. Ken Muscatel walked away from this blowover. He will race again. Hydroplane racing is a game of rivalries. 2002 on the Unlimited circuit has seen the creation of the kind of rivalry many thought had died in hydro sports.
I want to beat him. I want to beat him bad.
Yes, rivalries can also be a game of words.
There's a good chance that the boats are going to end up upside down, and we're just hoping that we don't end up one of them.
The teams, the Miss Budweiser and the Miss E-Lam Plus.
Dave and I have probably the two most controllable boats in the world. But if he's worried about getting upside down, he best step out of the cockpit.
You know, we had two people get upside down last weekend, and I nearly did. So, you know, we'll hopefully have a safe weekend and put on a good show for all our fans.
Before the Mariners slammed baseballs into outfield bleachers.
And that's belted to deep left field. 2-0 Mariners, fly away.
Before we heard this call.
Dilfer going deep, and a touchdown for Seattle.
Or the excitement of.
Ahead to Peyton, up top to Lewis, he'll take it. Cockett, get on the magic carpet right in.
In Seattle, we heard this. They've been coming to Lake Washington for more than 50 years. The Thunderbolts created Seattle's first sports stars. Drivers like Muncie and Chenoweth became legends. They drove boats christened with names like Slow Motion and Hawaii Kai. All this laid the foundation for a little event known as Seafair. Today, those roaring piston engines have been replaced by screaming turbine rockets. Today's boats barely resemble their ancestors. Classic wooden hulls of the 50s are now high-tech fiberglass machines. And today's hydro stars look more like jet pilots than boat drivers. But with all the changes over half a century, one thing has stayed the same: the fans. Children in the 50s and 60s would spend entire weekends with mom and dad at the lake. Now those kids are parents themselves, and they're bringing a new generation of fans to Lake Washington. Today, as they've done since 1951, these fans will carry forward a Seattle tradition. It is summertime in Seattle. It is time for the GM Cup at Seafair.
The 2002 General Motors Cup Free Race Special is brought to you by your local Northwest Chevrolet dealers. Chevrolet will be there. And by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair.
The picture of Lake Washington tells the story. In a sport of ladies, Mother Nature today will rule over which miss ends up on the winner's podium. If competing with each other wasn't enough, drivers in Seattle are going to have to compete today with the elements. Will it be calm? Will the winds wreak havoc? Only time will tell. One thing that is clear, the fans. They have waited a full year for this day. Hundreds of thousands of them will line the shore. Thousands more will join them out on the log boom, all waiting for the thunder to begin. And they hope that thunder comes from the water, not from the sky. There is an air of anxious anticipation this Seafair. This year, perhaps more than in recent years, there's an intense battle brewing. Two teams focused squarely on each other, and several others already in the hunt, just waiting for one of them to make a mistake. 4 races so far this season, 2 winners. Will Seattle break the tie, or will another boat join the winners list? After 2 days of qualifying, it's the U-16, the Miss E-Lam, the top qualifier. Driver Nate Brown piloting that bright orange boat to a speed of 153.344 miles an hour. Now, earlier this morning, first on the water, the final testing session for the Skyway Park Bowl and Casino. Michael Hansen at the controls, testing the setups to try to accommodate the conditions. Choppy water, wind blowing right in his face. And we're set for one tremendous day of hydroplane racing. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to the 52nd annual Hydroplane races at Seafair. From the shores of Lake Washington, I'm Steve Rabel. Happy to be here as we gear up for the General Motors Cup at Seafair. We've got an outstanding team to bring you this year's race from the sidelines, from the shoreline, from the pits, and of course from the water. My partner here on the tower today, as he was 1 year ago, Chip Hanauer, and it really is a treat for me to have undoubtedly one of the finest drivers ever to climb in to an unlimited hydroplane. 11 Gold Cup wins, and in fact, this year marks the 20th anniversary of Chip's first Gold Cup victory. Let's take you back to Detroit, 1982.
Now at this point, Chenoweth cannot see where Hanauer sits as Hanauer begins to pull now down inside Chenoweth. And Chenoweth almost completely off the water. As look at this tremendous charge by Hanauer. How he's keeping the boat under control is completely beyond me. Hanauer completely up in the air, but he still maintains his position along the butt. The butt sitting solidly in the water. Chenoweth holding the lead. Here comes Hanauer. They both pour on the power, pour on the nitrous oxide. And Hanauer forges his way past the butt as they decelerate to the turn. Now Chenoweth responds. They're in the rooster tail turn. Chenoweth wide once again, picking up the RPM. But Hanauer stays on the inside, and Hanauer moves into first. A dream about to come true for Chip Hanauer as he accelerates for the last time across the line, and Chip Hanauer has won the Gold Cup.
Wow, it's great to see those old pictures. The crew loved it, certainly, and so did all the fans. Chip was driving the Atlas Van Lines, actually a brand new boat because it had to be rebuilt after Chip's great friend Bill Munsey died just less than a year before. As Chip climbs out of the boat, the first of many championships and 11 Gold Cups, as we said. Battling Dean Chenoweth, who was driving the Budweiser, who also lost his life less than a year later. Chip joins me now here on the tower. That had to be kind of bittersweet to see those pictures again. Chip, that was a long time ago, but still must be very much in your memory.
No, it's all sweet. I mean, that woman that I hugged was Fran Munsey, Bill's widow. Imagine a kid growing up in Seattle wanting to be an unlimited hydroplane driver and then winning the Gold Cup 8 months after Bill Munsey's death, the greatest race driver, and giving it to the Atlas Van Lines people and the Bill Munsey family. It was. I could have quit racing right there, and it would have been a happy career.
We saw in that old film deck-to-deck racing, and we're seeing more deck-to-deck racing this year than I think I remember in all the years I've been doing this.
Well, I have to say that the race last week in Tri-Cities had to be the best unlimited hydroplane race I've ever seen. These boats weren't racing around the race course, they were hurling themselves around the race course. Neither one of them more apart than maybe 5 feet, and it ultimately led into trouble when Dave Villwock got almost upside down and missed the corner.
Now in this 2-mile course out here on the shores of Lake Washington, we have every angle covered for you. Let's go down to the pits and meet our reporters, and we begin with KIRO 7's new sports director, Gart Swanson.
Thanks, guys. I'm Gart Swanson on the west side of the pitch. The boat to watch over here is the Skyway Park Bowl. I tell you what, this boat wants to win, and so does the Oh Boy Oberto. Greg.
I'm Greg England. I'm covering the point for you today, and that's where you find the Miss E-Lam Plus, the defending champ. This boat is hot. They've won 4 of the last 6 races, but 2 other drivers out here, Greg Hopp, Terry Troxell, they will not make it easy on the E-Lam today. Bill?
I'm Bill Rocky in the East Pit. I'll be covering Dave Villwock and the Miss Budweiser. Also over here, the Miss Trend West with Mark Tate, and the Vacationville.com, a brand new piston-powered boat driven by Mitch Evans. Mike?
I'm Mike Fitzsimmons at the start and finish line. We're going to be watching the weather, of course, today, but primarily we're going to be watching the wind. The Genesee Channel is active today. That's that southwest wind that comes whipping up into the south turn. Could cause some problems. We'll keep an eye on it. Back to you, Steve.
Mike Fitzsimmons, the voice of hydroplane racing, maybe the best there's ever been in calling a race, and we have all of our opinions as well, but we've only got 7 more hours to bring them to you, so we'll tell you what we think about today's big slate of racing here at the GM Cup at Seafair in a couple of moments. Don't go away. We've got lots to bring you as this day goes on. Coming up, we're going to take you out to the beach as the fans get ready for today's racing. Also, what makes these hydroplanes go so fast? Chip is going to give us a fascinating look at what drives these boats, and wait till you see the comparison when it comes to horsepower. It really is fascinating. Stay right there. We'll be right back as we get ready to race at the General Motors Cup at Seafair. Well, we've talked lots of hydroplanes already, but of course one of the big drawing points of Seafair Sunday is the air show, the KeyBank Air Show. And you're looking at a P3 airborne reconnaissance aircraft. This was exactly the kind of plane that was forced down in China last year. Remember that? This from Whidbey Island, a P-3 flying here with the Key Bank Air Show at Seafair. Meantime, there's going to be a lot of flying on the water today. We often talk about the hydroplanes as being just like jet planes, actually down on the water. Trying to keep them there is oftentimes as tough as getting to the winner's platform. The Miss E-Lam is coming into this race as the defending champion. They've got a couple of wins under their belt this season, and you can almost hear the determination in their voice, speaking as a family, speaking as a team. But getting here hasn't been easy. It's been a long time in coming.
He comes into the corner, but once
It's been 8 years of fun and frustration,
E-Lam's on top of
delirium and disappointment. For years a contender, but only once a winner. The Elstrom family was always on the brink of a championship, but never quite close enough until exactly 1 year ago.
Now there's a checkered flag flying for the E-Lam.
It was Seattle, Seafair 2001, a brand new hydroplane with veteran driver Nate Brown in the cockpit. A week after a devastating loss in Pasco, the floodgates finally opened for a determined Eric Elstrom and the E-Lam team.
I think the boys at E-Lam realize they've got a victory on Lake Washington.
You know, it's the greatest feeling. You know, you just can't describe it. Every win is good. Seattle is special, though. It really is.
The win in Seattle was quickly followed by victory in San Diego, and the streak continued into this season with a win in Madison, the second race of the year.
They win the 2002 Budweiser Madison Regatta.
In a sport long dominated by one red boat, the Elstroms won 3 of 4 races. The Elstroms made quite a splash in their first year on the racing circuit.
I actually saw that boat at the boat show at the Kingdom, and they were looking for sponsors. And so I gave them a call. And, you know, I said, we want to sponsor you for Tri-Cities in Seattle, and here's what we'd like to do.
The results were disastrous. Driver Ken Dryden survived the crash, but was seriously injured. The Elstroms decided to go in a different direction.
So after that happened, my brother and I, we decided to, we said, well, heck, we can do this. And so that's when we started building our first boat.
Sven Elstrom remembers the day his sons told him they wanted their own hydroplane.
I said, give me a budget. I said, okay, Dad. So they gave me a budget. Well, I think all of us, you and I, as kids, we had a white lie to our parents once in a while. And when I got this budget for my kids, it was honest budget, but it turned out to be a pretty white lie.
The budget may have been a little off, but what the Elstrom boys lacked in budgeting skills, they made up for in passion and motivation.
A lot of my old friends will say one of the things Eric always wanted to do when he got older would be to race hydroplanes. Drive them, not do what I do, but actually drive them. As I got older, I got smarter.
It's a good start, Nate. Good start.
I made a promise to my dad if I ever did this and spent the Elstrom money that we would not be a second-place team.
Since 1995, they've been racing their own boats, mainly on the West Coast. Now the Elstroms are taking it to the next level. Not only do they have a brand new boat built last year, they're now making their own propellers and traveling the entire hydro circuit. They want to be national champions.
We have been the fastest qualifier at every race, but there has been many teams that have outraced us and have really shown us the door. And we have to put a stop to that.
They have a full-time boat crew, and in addition to their work at the family's manufacturing company, Eric, his brother Tom, and sister Lisa work year-round on the racing team. Dad Sven runs the family business.
It's nice. And Papa, I have my own office, and I'm the boss, and but I'm also the Papa. From the Papa, more than boss today.
Elstrom Manufacturing may not be a household name for consumers, but chances are you have some of their products in your home or boat. They're one of the largest providers of cabinet doors, desks, and laminate products in the country. They're the best in the business, and they're determined to be the best in their sport.
You know, second place is the first guy to lose, and that's no fun.
Well, Eric Elstrom seems to be having fun so far this season. Our Greg England is in the pits right now with pilot Nate Brown and boss and Papa. Greg?
That's right. The boss is here. And Nate, new piece of equipment. When you race for the Elstroms, this is what you get. You get custom equipment. This just came off the machine on Friday, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you race for the Elstroms, you race with the finest. I mean, they've got a great crew. It's a great family. When they want to do something, they do it right. You know, and last year, they built a boat right. And this last winter, they said they wanted to build their own propellers. And I couldn't believe it, but they bought this big machine, and they can build these things themselves. It's a company called 5 Axis Industries they've started. And this thing came off the machine beginning of the week, and it's just the best out there. That's one of our keys to success here is the Elstrom manufacturing pride and excellence.
And this team has really developed in the last year. Of course, you've won 4 of the last 6 races. What has winning done to this team? It seems like there's a little more confidence maybe around here in the pits.
You know, confidence, but it's also a fight. I mean, it's a lot of work out there. We're racing some real good competition. The Budweiser's a first-notch team. Mike Hansen's a first-notch team. All these teams out here, it's really a fight to go win this thing. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to be, have won the last one last week. But this week's a whole different week, and it's going to be a great boat race here at the GM Cup.
Fantastic. We wish you both the best of luck. We'll be checking in with you throughout the day. I'll tell you what, the E-Lam knows how to win 4 of the last 6 races. They've taken the checkered flag, so guys, they expect to get another win today.
All right, Greg, thanks very much. And Chip, what do you think the chances are for the E-Lam today?
I think they're good. I think we're in for just one heck of a boat race. This is a team now. This is their family money, but they have really pretty much leveled the playing field with Budweiser, who's using big Anheuser-Busch money. Why a national sponsor hasn't come up and sponsored this Elstrom boat, I have no idea, because you could be running with it and beating Anheuser-Busch. So these guys can do it with their own money, but they deserve a national sponsor.
Well, you mentioned that other team. There are going to be some other teams that have something to say about today's GM Cup. And one of those, that red boat, the Budweiser boat, Bernie Little, team owner for so many years, is in the pits. He hates to lose. You know, his health has not been good as well, but he's back, and we'll be talking about that in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. A full day of racing and boat stories ahead. You're watching the General Motors Cup at Seafair.
The 2002 General Motors Cup pre-race special is brought to you by Hebrew National. We answer to a higher authority. By parts and repair services from Sears. Where else? And by IHOP. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anytime's a good time for IHOP.
Hi, I'm Chris Opp. I'm with the Mike's Hard Lemonade Fan Cam. Now, we're in the pits today, and as you can see, the guys behind me are working hard putting the Mike's Hard Lemonade Hydro in the water. Whoa! As you can see, those guys are working hard. And as you can see, I'm not. Hey, fellas, now that you got the boat up in the air, don't you think it's about time for a break? Hey! Oh, man, these guys are working way too hard for me. I'm going to take a break. When a hard day...
You gotta start working harder.
When a hard day calls for a hard lemonade, make it Mike's. Good idea. I'm going to take a break.
Chris, whatever you do, don't work too hard. As you see the boats lined up out on the log boom, and of course they're getting ready not only for the great racing here at the General Motors Cup at Seafair, but also getting ready for that air show. And there's been a couple of acts already, and of course the Blue Angels coming up here at just about noontime with a fabulous performance. And as the skies clear a little bit, we hope to see their high show. But at the very least, we're going to see some of the great Navy precision flying that the Blue Angels bring here every year. As we return to our pit location, along with Chip Hanauer, I'm Steve Rabel. If you're just joining us on this Sunday morning, welcome. We've got great racing for you, and we've got all the festivities that are Seafair. Chip, as we talk about the boat races and the rest, let's talk a little bit about the, you talked about the boat racers bringing into the cockpit the bad feelings, the rivalries, and it's something they have to leave aside, right?
Right. I think what we're seeing is WWF, but it's the real thing. These guys aren't acting. These guys don't like each other. They're getting into boats that go 200 miles an hour, inches apart. Winds blowing, could be dangerous.
All right, we've got great racing for you, great rivalries. We also have the setup, the beginning, the start, official start to our day here along the shores of Lake Washington as a Chinook helicopter brings Old Glory, Stars and Stripes in. We have, from the U.S. Navy Band, our national anthem. U.S. Navy Band, a Chinook helicopter flyby with the Stars and Stripes and the Chief Seattle Fire Rescue Boat here in Lake Washington with the salute. And of course, the patriotic theme very much in evidence this year, certainly following September 11. We saw it at the Torchlight Parade just a week ago. We'll see it out here today. Flags flying everywhere. Very proud of the country, very proud of the men and women in the service of this country who are represented here today as well, and very proud of one of the very important people who puts on this event every year, President Beth Wojcik of Seafair. This is a great day for you, I know. Clouds aside, it's also a lot of work.
It is, and there's 2,000 volunteers out here working today for Seafair. Many of them have been down here taking a vacation all week, so I'm really proud of the job they're doing. Yeah.
How many folks do we expect out here along the shores? And we don't have the stands full yet, but they will be, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll have a couple 100,000. You know, this event is so uniquely Seattle. You can't see this anywhere else in the United States, and it's just really fun. Once a year, we take over Washington, the city of Seattle, and just have a great time with the General Motors Cup.
Let's talk about the patriotic theme. As we mentioned, we saw that in the Torchlight Parade, very much in evidence a week ago, and it is here as well.
Oh, yeah. Seafair's had a long-time relationship with the military, and we wanted to make sure that we honored the men and women who protect our country. The fleet came in this week. Many of the air show acts are military. It's going to be a great patriotic show here today.
Beth is dressed in her red, white, and blue, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Beth, you talked about volunteers, but there's also a lot of, there's the police, all that it takes to get people down here to the water's edge. Not an easy chore.
This event is one of the most technically difficult events to produce that I know of, Steve. It's, you know, you have things in the air, things on the water, things on the land. Just keeping up with the radio technology, the pagers and all of that, it's a real challenge. A lot of fun, though.
And finally, we'll have the air show in just a few minutes. The Blue Angels, of course, coming up at noon. And then all those wonderful folks out on the log boom. That is a great opportunity for folks to see racing and air show up close.
You know, it's a really difficult job to coordinate the log boom and the flight boxes and everything. There's a whole fleet of volunteers out there in their boats today making sure everybody's staying safe. So it's a big effort out here today.
Would you ever like to just watch this as a spectator instead of president someday?
This job is really fun, I got to tell you, but I'm backed up by Bill Vance, our race chairman, Fred Rosenfelder, our air show chairman, and Jeff Orswell, our director of operations. These guys make it happen. My job is much easier than theirs.
Well, I don't know about that, but you do a terrific job, and
Thank
you for all you do and all of your volunteers for Seafair.
Thank you, Steve.
Beth Wojcik, Seafair president, and we thank her again for all that she's done to help Seafair. Meantime, we talk about now, let's get back to talking about this racing, talking about the wind. And Mike Fitzsimmons, I don't know about your position there at the start-finish line, but I do see a few rays of sunshine.
The weather is improving, Steve. There's no question about that. In terms of the ceiling, it's raising. We're getting a lot more blue sky out here, but we still have a constant wind moving out of the southwest, and that's what the racers are going to be concerned about because their setups are going to depend upon what that surface is like today. And if it changes dramatically, they may be caught unaware of what to do by final heat time. But this is stop number 5 on the Unlimited Hydroplane Tour. 5 of 6, an abbreviated season this year. It all began on June the 28th back in Evansville, Indiana.
The 2002 hydro season began in Evansville, Indiana, but had a familiar finish. For the 7th consecutive year, Dave Villwalk crossed the finish line first, and it was the 6th consecutive victory here for Miss Budweiser. Next up, the 52nd running of the Madison Regatta. In the final, Nate Brown rode the Miss E-Lam to victory. It was Brown's 3rd career victory and the 4th win for the Elstrom family. Then it was off to Detroit to battle for the prestigious Gold Cup. 6 different drivers won preliminary heats, but in the final, it was Dave Villwalk capturing his 5th Gold Cup and the 14th for owner Bernie Little. Racing continued last weekend in the Tri-Cities. The 2 fastest boats renewed their rivalry on the mighty Columbia. Miss E-Lam and Miss Budweiser battled rough conditions and each other in the final heat. In the end, it was Nate Brown taking the checkered flag. Miss E-Lam earned its 2nd victory of the season and gained momentum heading into Seattle to defend their title.
So there you have it. That's the way it looked for the first 4 races. Race number 5 last stopped in September, Steve, in San Diego.
Mike, this is always the biggest stop on the course on the circuit is Seattle, and as Chip mentioned a little while ago, families are here. Not only all the great television audience and all the people here along the shoreline. What does that mean to these drivers?
It means an awful lot to these guys, particularly since much of the racing comes from the Seattle area. Most of the racing teams, the ensembles, come from here, and so this is a chance to perform in hometown territory, sort of the home field advantage, if you will. If Detroit is in fact the Yankee Stadium of unlimited hydroplane racing, then Seattle's definitely Fenway Park, and folks love to go to Fenway.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
All right, Mike, there's a guy who has taken home the trophy here from Seattle many, many times. His name is Bernie Little. He's the guy that runs that red boat camp down there that you drove for. You remember him,
I've heard
you?
of him.
Yeah, I bet you have. Bill Rocky is down in the Budweiser pits right now. Bill?
Thanks, Steve. And Bernie's been out for a month or so with a little bout with pneumonia, but it's great to see you back here, Bernie. I know it was tough. You missed 3 races. What was that like?
Well, that wasn't good. My whole life is right here in this racing team, and when I saw all the mix-ups and all the arguments and everything, I got on a plane for Seattle.
How did you communicate with Dave during the races? I know you weren't there, but you were talking to him, right?
I was on the phone continuously with my son Joe, and he told me told me where they were, when they were, and we've just had play-by-play, and so it worked real good that way, because I want to know where he is at the 1-minute gun. Then I can make a pretty good decision where the hell he's going to be when the clock goes. And but anyhow, it worked out real good. Really did.
All right, as Bernie mentioned, Joe was in the middle of all this. Joe is Bernie's son, and what was it like for you not having him around? That must have been kind of tough.
It was tough. Obviously, having him here, he's my hero, and I love talking to him here and having him on site. But on the phone was kind of tough, because you can imagine trying to tell him where one boat is, where the other is, and he gets so excited. Being here just on the phone was kind of tough, but glad to have him here, have him back, and yeah, I'm going to retire from that play-by-play on the telephone.
Well, he gave you a pretty good endorsement. Sounds like you did a good job.
Well, we did. We brought home the Gold Cup for him. Couldn't be prouder, and if I could do that again, it's fantastic.
Hey, Bernie, you gonna?
Well, that really upset me. He brought home the Gold Cup. I mean, I got a list of this now all year.
Are you gonna hand this thing off to him someday here?
Well, you know, I've been taking him to the boat races for a long time. He's born and raised with boat racing, and I like the way he performs, and absolutely Joe would take over the team.
That's great to hear, and it's great to see you back, and I know you want to say hi to Chip here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chip, you and your crew do a great job. You did last year, and I want to thank KIRO for what a great job they do here every year, and all you great announcers. I don't know. I hope they're not paying you guys.
You better watch out. Our marketing department's going to hire you if you keep this up. All right, let's go back up to you, Steve.
Well,
are they paying
Bernie.
you?
Well, they're not. No, as a matter of fact, no. And nice words from the boss, and he was your boss at one time.
He was my boss, and he said something very significant that he's never said anywhere else, anywhere on any kind of media, that he would turn the team over to Joe, because nobody really knew what was going to happen to the team, you know, down the road.
There's been that talk that if Bernie decides to move on, what happens to the sport? Well,
Absolutely.
with Gary Garbrick now and Joe stepping in, this sport has got quite a future.
That was a very significant statement by Bernie. Never heard him say it.
Well, we're glad he's doing well. Glad he's back up here in Seattle. Meantime, aside from Bernie Little, there are lots of characters in this sport. You met one of them there. You're going to meet another one in a couple of minutes. The man behind the pepperoni-powered boats, the second oldest sponsor in the sport. We'll get to know Art Oberto next. You're watching the General Motors Cup at Seafair on KIRO 7. Why, there's partying going on Seafair Sunday. Can you imagine? That's one of the great things about this race course here on the shores of Lake Washington. Genesee Park, the wonderful homes overlooking this. The parties go on all day long, and we certainly hope that KIRO 7 is on every television, on every patio, and in every home, not only along the shores, but all around the great Northwest. As we get set for the GM Cup at Seafair, the racing is going to be terrific today. We're glad you're with us. You know, hydroplane racing is the sport of sponsorship. These are flying billboards that sail around this race course out here on the water. That may be why, because of the expense, that so few sponsors stay around for a long period of time. But there is one man whose passion for this sport is unrivaled. Hear why he couldn't say no to requests for sponsorship. 1975.
In Seattle, hydroplane racing was struggling just to survive. The fans were staying home, and boat owners found sponsors tough to come by. That's how it was for owner Bill Worcester.
First time I met Art Oberto was at KIRO television station.
Really?
Yes, they were putting on a fundraiser to help save the seafarer. And he was there, and I talked to him for a few minutes, took him out, showed him the boat, and the end result was that he sponsored my boat that year.
He says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a deal you can't refuse. I says, we come on a price, so much a race, and if it doesn't run, you don't pay.
So began the legacy of the pepperoni-powered hydroplanes. After 10 different boats, 3 victories, and legions of fans, now 28 seasons later, Oh Boy Oberto is the second oldest sponsor in all of hydroplane racing.
We kept telling everybody, this is our last year we're going to have a boat. We're all done, we're out of this here. And every year we'd end up, somebody come along and say, well, gee, we need a sponsor. Would you sponsor us for something?
The roar of the thunderboats caught Oberto's attention at a young age and lured him to Lake Washington. He remembers one special seafair when he brought his brand new radio to the lake shore.
And the radio announcer was going crazy. The 1-minute gun has sounded, no sign of slow-mo 4 and 5. They're not going to be here. They're going to miss the race. And they both came underneath the bridge, side by side, wide open. That was the biggest thrill of my life.
Art Oberto's story actually begins decades earlier, when at just 16, his father died suddenly, leaving him and his mother to run the Oberto Sausage Company.
My dad gave me up for lost cause ever being a sausage maker. All I like to do is build.
Sausage may not have been Oberto's first love, but he took his desire to build and turned a small mom-and-pop sausage company into one of the largest snack food companies in the world. Now, nearly 75, Oberto has turned the reins over to his children, but the commitment that led to the company's success remains the driving force.
Our philosophy has always been, if you're going to do something, you have to incorporate benefit to everybody else around you. And I call it what I call the natural crick theory. You find something that people like to do, you jump on the bandwagon, you help them do it.
It is that theory that feeds the entire Oberto family's passion for hydroplanes.
There was something going on here all the time.
It wasn't a fluke that the Oberto's Lake Washington house is a piece of racing history. It was on this lawn where the Gale 4 lost control during a race, landing in the pond. That's part of why he bought this house. He also wanted his children to be closer to the races. And now, though the children are grown, their youth is cast in stone, forever at play with their miniature hydroplanes.
You gotta have a have fun sticker here.
The company Carney is what Art Oberto calls himself. A marketing genius may be more accurate. Just as he's done for decades, you can still find Art Oberto at race sites handing out stickers and beef jerky.
When our boat ran, we always had the biggest rooting crowd on the beach because we had them all pepperonied up, we had them all sampled up, and even though the boat didn't run, when we went by, hey, the boats were all cheering.
All pepperonied up. Art Oberto, what a great guy, what a character. Our Gart Swanson is in the Oberto pit right now with driver Steve David.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve. And you know what? Very frustrated crew down here. Take a look at this. This happened last night during qualifying. They had a little electrical problem. It's turned into a big thing. And Steve, what's going on right now?
Well, the Oberto has been running great, and unfortunately, is what you saw, that's a chafe guard for wires. One of our wires melted, killed the chafe guard, and fried our entire electrical system. And this boat probably has close to a mile of cabling in it. All of it's getting replaced. Our crew's working, volunteers from the Trend West team are helping, our officials are helping, so they're doing everything to get the Oberto in the water.
Can you guys get it going today?
We sure hope so. One way or another, if I have to row the Oberto across the finish line, we're going to make this race today.
You guys are in Heat 1B. You buy yourself about 20, 25 minutes from now. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, we need all the time we can get, and if we can't make that one, then we'll make that second set of heats, but they'll give it all they can to put the Oberto in the water today.
All right, let's get it going. Thanks a lot, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Steve David of the Oberto. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Guard. We want to see that pepperoni boat in the racing, by the way, today. Stay with us. We've got much to come. Other teams are getting ready. We'll go down to the pits, tell you how they're preparing for Heat 1A. And next, do you wonder how these hydroplanes can get up to speeds of 200 miles an hour? We'll talk about horsepower and the propeller with Chip Hanauer. Be right back.
The 2002 General Motors Cup at Seafair is brought to you by your local Northwest Chevrolet dealers. Chevrolet, we'll be there. And by Southwest Airlines, the official airline of Seafair.
You know, winning today out on the lake is going to be about beating the elements, but it's also going to be about who has the fastest boat. Clearly, the key to this sport is speed. So how do these hydroplanes get up to some 200 miles an hour? My partner Chip Hanauer gives us a little lesson in horsepower.
I'm here at Western Towboat, a family-owned tugboat company here in Seattle. And what's interesting about these tugs you see behind me is they actually have something in common with unlimited hydroplanes. They both make 2,500 horsepower, but they couldn't be more different. A tugboat makes 2,500 horsepower and can pull an apartment house to Alaska. An unlimited hydroplane makes 2,500 horsepower, can go 200 miles an hour, but it can't even pull a small child up on 2 water skis. So why is that? Although a hydroplane and a tugboat both make 2,500 horsepower, they do it very differently. Horsepower is RPM, revolutions per minute, times torque. Torque is what you do when you open up a hose bib at your house. If that hose bib is corroded, it takes more torque to open it. If it's brand new, it spins easily and you're using very little torque. To go fast around Seattle, these teams have to have the right amount of torque to get the boat off the corner and get it up to speed, but also have enough RPM to go 200 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway. They do that with this propeller. Just enough torque to get the boat accelerating, but also small enough to give it enough RPM to give it a lot of speed at the end of the straightaway. This baby makes very little RPM, only going about 200 revolutions per minute versus over 10,000 for this propeller. But it creates very little speed, but it can pull an apartment house all the way from Seattle to Alaska efficiently. 2,500 horsepower, 2 different propellers to do 2 different jobs.
And there you have Professor Hanauer. Thank you for that lesson, Doctor. Speaking of horsepower, it's one thing to power the boat, it's something else to control it, and that's the job of the pilot, the driver.
Well, the driver and the gearbox and propeller ratio, they've got to get the right ratio to get enough efficiency, enough speed, enough torque, and then it's got to be up to the driver to know what he's got. Does he have a boat that accelerates well, which means he can be on the inside and accelerate, or does he have a boat with a lot of top speed? And top speed is where the boat gets loose, so the driver's the guy that's ultimately responsible.
Our Bill Rocky is in the pits as we get set. We're getting ready for Heat 1A, and he's with a guy who likes to go very fast, driver Mark Tate.
That's right, Steve. Mark, you didn't go out this morning, but you can kind of see what's going on out there. It's a little windy.
The wind's coming right out of the south. The back chute, corners 3 and 4 are going to be extremely rough out there. And, you know, we're all just going to have to use our heads and get through the day.
Who's the favorite here?
I don't ever know if there is any true favorite in my mind, but, you know, E-Lam and Butter have probably been the 2 strongest boats on the circuit all year, and me and Mike Jones have been having some really good races, and you can't count out the U10 boat with Mike Weber. It's just going to be a great boat race.
All right, Mark, good luck today. Take it easy out there, a little windy. Steve, let's go back up to you.
Bill, thanks very much. Let's check in with Greg England now, who is with driver Terry Troxel of Fairweather Masonry.
That's right, guys. It's never easy. Already a problem today. Terry, you're out there warming up today, and what, you blow an engine?
Yeah, we blew it big time, you know, big fireball. In fact, guys gave me a pack of ballpark wieners to take with me so I can cook something out there if it happens again now. But yeah, we blew you know, our first engine up today, and luckily it was one of our big motors. It's one of our small motors, so we put one of the bigger ones in. So, you know, Fred thought I did it on purpose, but I really didn't, Fred.
Right. So you got a good attitude about it. Do you gain or lose anything compared to that engine that you had in there this morning?
Well, we should gain, because the rest of our motors from now on are bigger motors, so it'll be better. And you know, we qualified a little bit better than we thought. So we were actually in the second heat instead of the first heat like they thought. So that gives us an advantage too. So we're looking pretty good.
All right, could be a blessing in disguise. This man has a plan, guys.
Greg, thanks. Gart Swanson is also in the pits. As you know, Laurie Jones is the owner of the Skyway Park Bowl Casino. Gart?
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve. And no one's more excited than Laurie Jones. And I got to tell you, what's going through your mind right now? Your boat's in the water, ready to go.
Actually, I'm thinking about last weekend in Tri-Cities. We had Miss Skyway Park Bowl in Lane 2, and that's what we're going to have today. And we had Nate Brown and E-Lam in Lane 1, and that's the heat where we beat them. So I'm excited right now. I think we can do it again.
And you know what? It always seems like it's the big boat. It's the Bud or the E-Lam, and you guys are hanging right in there, second in points and having really a great season.
You know, it's a volume of dollars a lot of times, but as I've always said before, it is possible, and we're proof of that, and you can do it.
What's going to be the difference for you guys today?
Probably lane choice of what we get. We're prepared to set up for lane 2 and as well as lane 5 because you're going to see that through the course of the day, and we think we're pretty well prepared for either one of those choices.
Is the boat right where you want it right now?
The driver tells me it is, so if the driver's happy, I'm happy.
It's all about the driver, isn't it?
It is. When Michael's not happy, you know about it. So no, we're well prepared, we're ready to go, and hopefully the wind's going to keep everybody on the water, boat side up.
Yeah, and let's hope everybody's safe. Lori Jones, thank you very much, and good luck today.
Thank you very much.
All right, back to you guys up in the booth.
Guard, thanks. So you've heard it all from the pits. Chip Hanauer, Mike Fitzsimmons out at the start-finish line. Michael, I start with you. We keep the boats right side up today or not?
Well, let's hope so. I think there are a couple of boats that are running kind of ragged, and I'm a little concerned about that with this wind. Although the course has started to lay down, Steve, the reality of it is once these 6 boats come out for Heat 1A, start churning things up, it'll get just as ugly as it was before.
Chip, what are the drivers thinking about right now before the very first heat of this 2002 General Motors Cup?
Ominous. When I raced and you had a day like this with gray, wind, a lot of tension between drivers, there's an ominous feeling to it. And I have that feeling today. I think this is going to be a difficult day of racing for everybody.
But it should be an exciting day of racing, and you are at the right spot to see it all. Stay tuned. We're going to be here all afternoon for you. The General Motors Cup at Seafair. Heat 1A is coming up in just a couple of moments. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here on KIRO 7.
Now, Shell presents this driver profile.
He's a hometown kid who dreamed of racing hydros. He's now living his dream and at the top of his game. Today, he returns to Lake Washington to defend his title.
Hi, my name is Nate Brown. I drive the U16 Miss E-Lam Plus. I drive because I love Lake Washington, I love the sunshine, I love to go fast. Watch me race next, right here on KIRO 7.